The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 3, Section 4, reply to the address of welcome at Madura. The Swami was presented with an address of welcome by the Hindus of Madura, which read as following. Most revered Swami, we, the Hindu public of Madura, beg to offer you our most heartfelt and respectful welcome to our ancient and holy city. We realize in you a living example of the Hindu sannyasi who, renouncing all worldly ties and attachments calculated to lead to the gratification of the self, is worthily engaged in the noble duty of living for others and enduring to raise the spiritual condition of mankind. You have demonstrated to your own people that the essence, the true essence of Hindu religion is not necessarily bound up with rules and rituals, but that it is sublime philosophy capable of giving peace and solution to the distressed and afflicted. You have taught America and England to admire that philosophy and that religion, which seeks to elevate every man is the in the best manner suited to his capacity and environment. Although your teachings have for the last 3 years been delivered in foreign lands, they have not been the less eagerly devoured in this country, and they have not a little tended to counteract 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 the growing materialism imported from the foreign soil. India lives to this day, for it has a mission to fulfill in the spiritual ordering of the universe. The appearance of the soul, like you at the close of this cycle of the Kali Yuga, is to us a sure sign of the incarnation in the nearer future of great souls through whom that mission will be fulfilled. Madura, the seat of ancient learning, Madura, the favored city of the god Sundareshwar, the holy Dwa, Dwa, the holy Dwadashanta Dwadashantak Kshetram, Dwadashantak Kshetram of yogis, lags behind no other Indian city in its warmth admiration of your exposing of Indian philosophy and its gratitude or grateful acknowledgement of your priceless service for human being. We pray that you may be blessed with the long life of vigor and strength and usefulness. The Swami replied in the following terms: I wish I could live in your midst for several days and fulfill the conditions that have just been pointed out by your most worthy chairman of relating to you my experience in the West and the result of all my labors there for the last 4 years. But unfortunately, even Swamis have bodies, and the continuous traveling and speaking that I have had to go undergo for the last 3 weeks make it impossible for me to deliver a very long speech this evening. I will therefore satisfy myself with thanking you very cordially for the kindness that has been shown to me and reserve other things for some day in the future. When under better condition of health, we shall have time to talk over more various subjects than we can do in so short a time this evening. Being in Madura as the guest of one of your well-known citizens and noblemen, the Raja of Ramanad, one fact comes promptly to my mind. Perhaps most of you are aware that it was the Raja who first put the idea into my mind of going to Chicago, and it was he who all the time supported it with all his heart and influence. A good deal Therefore, a good deal, therefore, of the praise that has been bestowed upon me in this address ought to ought to go to this nobleman of the southern India. I only wish that instead of becoming a Raja, he had become a sannyasi. For that it was for that is what he is really fit for. Wherever there is things really needed in one part of the world, the complement will find its way there and supply it with new life. This is a true this is a truth in the physical world as well as in the spiritual world. If there is a want of spirituality in one part of the world and at the same time the spirituality exists elsewhere, whether we consciously struggle for it or not, that spirituality will find its way to the path where it is needed and balance the inequality in the history of the human race. Not once or twice, but again and again. It has been the destiny of India in the past of supply spirituality in the world. We find that whenever, either by mighty quest or conquest or by commercial supremacy, different part of the world have been needed into one whole race and bequests have been made from one corner to the other. Each nation has it where poured forth its own codes. The sum total of human knowledge has been spiritualized. India contributes to sum total of the human knowledge has been spirituality and philosophy. This she contributes even long before the rising of the Persian Empire. The second time was during the Persian Empire, for third time during the ascendancy of the Greece, and now for the fourth time during the ascendancy of British or English. She is going to fulfill the same destiny once more. As the Western ideas of organization and external civilization are penetrating and pouring into our country, whether we will have them or not, so Indian spirituality and psychology and philosophy are deluding the land of the West. None has resisted it, and no more can we resist some sort of materialist civilization from the West. A little of it prepares is good for us, and a little of spirituality is good for the West. Thus, the balance will be preserved. It is not that we ought to learn everything from the West or that they have to learn everything from us, but each will have to supply and hand down to future generations what it has for the future accomplishment of the dream of ages, the harmony of nations, an ideal world. Whether that ideal world will ever come, I do not know. Whether that social perfection will ever be reached, I have my own doubts. But whether it comes or not, each one of us will have to work for the idea as if it will come tomorrow and as if it only depends on his work and his alone. Each one of us will have to believe that everyone else in the world has done his work, and the only work remaining to be done to make the world perfect has to be done by himself. This is the responsibility we have to take upon ourselves. In the meanwhile, in India, there is a tremendous revival of religion. There is danger ahead as well as glory for revival. Sometimes breeds fanaticism, sometimes goes to the extreme, so that often it is not even in the power of those who start the revival to control it when it has gone beyond a certain length. It is better, therefore, to be forewarned. We have to find our way between the cycla and of the old superstitions, orthodox, and the cherubis of materialism, of Europeanism, of soullessness of the so-called reform, which has penetrated to the foundation of the Western progress. These two have to be taken care of. In the first place, we cannot become Western. Therefore, imitating the Westerns is useless. Suppose you can imitate the Western, that moment you will die and you will have no more life in you. In the second place, it is impossible. A stream is taking its rise away beyond where time begins, flowing through the millions of ages of human history. Do not mean that to get hold of that stream and push it back to its source. It would to a Himalayan glaciers. Where even if that was practicable, it would not be possible for you to be an Europeanized. If you find it is impossible for a European to throw off the few centuries of culture which there is in the West, do you think it is possible for you to throw off the culture of shining scores of centuries? It cannot be. We must also remember that in every little village god and every little superstitious custom is that we are accustomed to call our religious faith. But local customs are infinite and contradictory. Which are we to obey and which not to obey? The Brahmin of the southern India, for instance, would shrink in horror at the sight of nothing at the sight of another Brahmin eating meat. A Brahmin in the north thinks it is most glorious and holy thing to do. He kills goat by the hundreds in the sacrifice. If you put forward your custom, they are equally ready for with theirs. Various other customs all over India, but they are local. The greatest mistake made is that ignorant people always think that this local custom is the essence of our religion. But beyond this, there is a still greater difficulty. There are two sorts of truth we find in our Shastras. One that is based upon the eternal nature of man, the one that deals with the eternal relationship or relation of God, soul, and nature, the other with the local circumstances, environments of the time, social institution of the period, and so forth. The first class of the truth is chiefly embodied in our Vedas, our scriptures. The second in the Smritis, the Puranas, etc. We must remember that for all periods, the Vedas are the final goal and authority. And if the Puranas differ in any respect from the Vedas, that part of the Puranas is to be rejected without mercy. We find then that in all the Smritis, the teachings are different. One Smriti says this is the custom and this should be the practice of this age. Another one says this is the practice of this age and so forth. This is the acharya, which should be the custom of this satyug, and this is the uh, achara, which should be custom of kalayug, and so forth. Now, this is one of the most glorious doctrine that you have, that eternal truths been based upon the nature of man will never change so long as man lives. They are for all times omnipresent universal virtues. But the Smritis speak generally of a local circumstances of duties arising from different environment and they change in the course of time. This you have always to remember that because a little social custom is going to be changed, you are not going to lose your religion, not at all. Remember, these customs have already been changed. There was a time in this very India when without eating beef, no Brahman could remain a Brahmin. You read in the Vedas how, when a sannyasin, a king, or a great man came into the house, the best bullock was killed. How in time it was found that as we were an agriculture race, killing the best bulls meant annihilation of the race. Therefore, the practice was stopped and the voice was raised against the killing of cow. Sometimes we find existing then what we now consider the most horrible customs. In course of time, other laws had to be made. This in turn will have to go and other smritis will come. This is the one fact we have to learn that the Vedas being eternal will be one and the same throughout all ages, but the Smritis will have an end. As time rolls on, more and more of the Smritis will go, sages will come, and they will change and direct the society into different channels, into duties, into paths, which according with the necessity of the age and without which it is impossible that society can live. Thus, we have to guide our course according these two dangers, and I hope that every one of us here will have breath enough and at the same time faith enough to understand what that means, which I suppose is the inclusion of everything and not the exclusion. I want the intensity of the fanatic plus the extensity of the materialistic. Deep has the ocean, broad has the infinite sky. That is the sort of heart we want. Let us be as progressive as any nation that ever existed, and at the same time as faithful and conservative towards our traditions as Hindus alone know how to be. In plain words, we have first to learn the distinction between the essential and non essential in everything. The essentials are eternal, and non essentials have value only for a certain time. And if after a time they are not replaced by something essential, they are positively dangerous. I do not mean that you should stand up and revive all your old customs and institutions. Certainly not. You must not revile even the most evil one of them. Revile, revile none. Even those customs that are now appearing to the positive evils have been positively life giving in time past. And if we have to remove this, we must not do so with curses, but with the blessings and gratitude for the glorious work these customs have done for the preservation of our race. And we must also remember that the leaders of our society have never been either generals or kings, but rishis. And who are these rishis? The rishis is as he is called in the Upanishad, is not an ordinary man, but a drashta. Mantra drashta. He is a man who sees religion, to whom religion is not merely book learning, not argumentations, nor speculations, nor much talking, but actual realization, a coming face to face with truth which transcend the senses. This is rishihood, and that rishihood does not belong to any age or time or even to the sect or caste. Vatsyayana says truth must be realized, and we have to remember that you and I and every one of us will be called upon to be rishis, and we must have faith in ourselves. We must become world movers, for everything is in us. We must see religion face to face, experience it, and thus solve our doubts about it. And then standing up in the glorious light of the Rishihood, each one of us will be a giant, and every word following from falling from our lips will carry behind it that infinite sanction of security, and before us evil will vanish by itself, without the necessity of cursing anyone, without the necessity of abusing anyone, without the necessity of fighting anyone in the world. May the Lord help us, each one of us here, to realize the rishihood for our own salvation and for that of the others.